Coachella 2026 was supposed to be safe, a clean, predictable 25th anniversary celebration. A moment designed to honor the past, not disrupt the present. For years, Coachella has followed a formula. Big names, carefully curated performances, moments engineered to go viral, but never out of control. It's a machine, and machines don't like unpredictability, but this time, something slipped. And once it did, everything changed. What was meant to be a celebration quickly turned into the most controversial, unpredictable, and talked about Coachella in history. Not because of one performance, but because of a pattern. A comment that sparked global backlash, unexpected artists dominating attention, and cracks in a system that had always looked flawless. For the first time, it didn't feel like the industry was leading culture. It felt like it was reacting to it. From Sabrina Carpenter's Zaghrouta controversy, to Justin Bieber's emotionally loaded return, to Karol G redefining what a headliner looks like, to the explosive rise of global acts like BINI and KATSEYE. This wasn't just a festival recap, this was a shift. And if you understand this moment, you understand where music is going next. Welcome to Facts and More, where we don't just follow what's trending, we break down what it actually means. The headliners and the drama. Let's start with the moment that defined the narrative. Sabrina Carpenter's performance. On the surface, it had everything. Strong vocals, confident presence, a crowd that was fully engaged. It was controlled, polished, exactly what Coachella is known for. But in 2026, perfection isn't what creates impact. It's friction, and that friction came from a single reference, Zaghrouta, a traditional celebratory chant rooted in Arab culture. Now, in a different time, this might have passed without much attention, but Coachella isn't just a live audience anymore. It's global, clipped, shared, analyzed in real time by millions. And that changes everything, because now every moment exists in multiple interpretations at once. What one person sees as appreciation, another sees as appropriation. And within hours, the conversation exploded. Social media wasn't reacting to the performance anymore. It was dissecting it, debating it, framing it, and that's the real shift. Performances don't end when the music stops. They continue online, and sometimes that's where the real impact happens. But here's where Sabrina's situation becomes important, because controversy alone doesn't define the outcome. Response does. She responded quickly, and in today's digital environment, speed is power, because narratives form fast. And once they do, they're hard to change. By addressing the situation immediately, she didn't erase the controversy, but she controlled its direction. Instead of silence creating speculation, her response created structure. And that's modern PR, not preventing controversy, but navigating it in real time. Meanwhile, on another stage, something very different was happening. Justin Bieber returned. And this wasn't positioned as a reinvention. It wasn't about proving anything new. It was about reminding people of something familiar. And that's what made it powerful. Because Bieber represents more than music. He represents time. An entire generation grew up alongside him. So when he stepped onto that stage, the reaction wasn't just excitement. It was emotional recognition. Every lyric carried memory. Every moment felt layered with history. And in an industry obsessed with what's next, that kind of connection stands out. It showed something important. Not all impact comes from innovation, some of it comes from continuity. And then came Karol G. And this moment wasn't subtle, it was historic. The first Latina headliner at Coachella. But what made it powerful wasn't just the milestone, it was how natural it felt. The audience didn't react like this was something unusual. They reacted like it was overdue. And that says everything, because it shows the gap between the audience and the industry. The audience has already moved global. The industry is still catching up. Karol G didn't feel like a breakthrough, she felt like alignment. And that's why her performance mattered, because it confirmed something. The global sound isn't a trend anymore, it's the standard. The global explosion. BINI and KATSEYE. But the real shift of Coachella 2026 didn't happen on the main stage, it happened where fewer people were looking. The Mojave and Sahara tents. This is where the structure started to break. Because traditionally, these stages are secondary. They're for discovery, not dominance. But in 2026, that changed. BINI stepped into that space without the same expectations as headliners. But expectations don't control outcomes. Energy does. And from the moment they began, something felt different. The crowd wasn't passive, and it was active, engaged, responsive in a way that didn't feel manufactured, and it felt real. And that's rare, because modern audiences are harder to impress. They've seen everything. They've consumed everything. So when something cuts through that, it matters. BINI didn't just perform, they connected. And that connection translated instantly. Clips spread, moments circulated, engagement spiked. And suddenly, they weren't just part of the lineup, they were part of the conversation. And then came KATSEYE, a group built on a completely different model, not tied to one country, not defined by one market, but designed for a global audience from the start. And because of that, they didn't feel like outsiders, that they felt like the next step, because the industry used to work in segments. Different regions, different markets, different sounds. But now, those lines are fading. Audiences don't consume locally anymore, they consume globally. And KATSEYE reflects that shift perfectly. They're not adapting to the global market. They were built for it. And when you look at the data, that's where things become clear. Because after the festival, the real results weren't measured by stage size. They were measured by attention, social media traction, mentions, shares, clips. And what those metrics showed was a shift in power. These global acts weren't just competing with legacy artists, they were outperforming them in visibility, in engagement, in cultural impact. And in today's industry, that's what matters most, because attention is influence, and influence determines direction, which means the center of the industry is moving. The worst moments and legacy. But Coachella 2026 wasn't just defined by its highs, it was also defined by its failures, and those failures revealed something deeper. High desert winds forced Anima to cancel a production. That had taken an entire year to build. That's not just a setback, that's a signal. Because when something becomes this complex, it also becomes fragile. The more elements you add, the more points of failure you create. And then the lighting accident at the Dough Lab. Unexpected, uncontrolled, a moment that broke the illusion of perfection. Because Coachella has always been about control, every detail planned, every moment curated. But 2026 showed something different. It showed unpredictability. And once an audience sees that light, they start to question the system. Because perfection isn't just about execution, it's about consistency. And when that consistency breaks even slightly, it changes perception. And perception is everything. Because Coachella isn't just a festival, it's a brand, a symbol of what the music industry looks like at its highest level. So when cracks appear, they matter. And that leads to the bigger question. Has Coachella reached a point where growth is working against it? Because scale creates pressure, and pressure exposes weaknesses. Heading into 2027, the festival is at a crossroads. Does it continue being what it has always been? A controlled, celebrity-driven spectacle? Or does it evolve into something else? A platform that reflects the global, unpredictable nature of modern music? Because if 2026 proved anything, it's that control is fading. And the audience is taking over. They decide what trends, they decide what matters, they decide what wins. And once that shift happens, it doesn't reverse. Because Coachella 2026 wasn't just an event. It was a signal, a moment where everything became visible at once. The shift in power, the rise of global influence, the cracks in systems that once felt untouchable. And if you're paying attention, you already know this isn't temporary. It's the direction. So if you want to stay ahead of it, not just watch it happen, but understand it. Stay right here with facts and more, because here, we don't follow culture, we decode it.